Hello and welcome to Creating an Effective Communication Strategy. I am Melissa Smith and I'm a remote work consultant. I'm going to be working with you today in this masterclass. And just a little bit about me, if you don't know already, I have been remote for 6 years. I have been location independent for 3 years. I am an author and mentor for Remote How Academy, which is the first online global certification program. I have a background in virtual assistants. I've been quoted in Forbes, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. News and World Report, and all that just to say, I know what I'm talking about. I'm here to help you, and you can trust that I truly want to assist you in this process. So, first off, why do we need this effective communication strategy? We talk, we chat, we video, we text all the time, but why does it have to be an effective communication strategy? And it's really, we have to ask ourselves the question first, what will poor communication cost your company? And there is a very high cost to poor communication. So if you have companies that are quite large, so we have a study from SHRM of over 400 companies of 100,000 employees or more, and miscommunication and poor communication costs them over $62 million a year. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have that many employees. We don't have the same problem. Well, a company with an average of 100 employees loses about $420,000 a year. And that's a lot of money to lose. That's a lot of money that could go to a lot of other places just by doing something that doesn't cost us any money, and that is learning how to communicate effectively and putting an effective communication strategy in place. So why, as a leader, do you need to make sure this is in place? Well, of course, there's the money side of it, but you likely have a vision. And as a leader, it's your job to get the vision out, but it's also your job to make sure that vision is received, that your message is received. So if you've ever taken speech classes or writing classes or done any professional development, you know that it's because you want to get better at delivering your message. Well, every single day when we communicate within our companies and within our teams, we have the opportunity to share more of what we're doing on a daily basis to get us to the point where we reach the vision, the goal, the mission of the company. And you must be able to lead from anywhere. If you want to have an impact around the world, around the globe, and if you want to have an impact just from your home office now, it's important that you know that you need to lead from anywhere and that you can lead from anywhere. And being remote can be a real blessing. So there are many of you who might be struggling right now thinking, I can't wait to get back to the office. I can't wait to be with my team again. But this is really an opportunity for you to shine and really be able to expand your leverage, expand your team, expand your message. And you can do that remotely when you have an effective communication strategy. Now, I get this question a lot. What do I need to do to lead remotely? And the thing about leading remotely, if you are a good leader, you are a good leader. You don't have to waste time thinking that you need all this new training to be a good leader just because you've gone remote now. A good leader is a good leader. So remember that, hold it inside you. Remember that when you're talking about your message. And you don't need new training. You don't need to be a millennial, and you don't even need to learn new software. What you need to do is simply put an effective communication strategy in place. If you are a leader, you are likely to have good communication skills. You're likely to have a vision. You're likely to lift people up. You're likely to be in tune with the company and the employees. You likely are able to know where the company is going and how best to get people there. That's what makes you a good leader. And you can do that and do all those things effectively remotely as well. So there are key elements to an effective communication strategy. And so you can think of this as your recipe for success, and that is communication, communication, communication. When it comes to working remotely, you cannot over communicate. Now, it is possible to communicate a lot and communicate poorly, but the principles and the elements are the same. So how will you communicate? Very basic question, but one question that goes overlooked so often. And it's because we have all these options to us, so we don't really stop to ask, is this the most effective way? Is this the best way? Is it not only convenient for me, but is it convenient for my coworkers, my employees? Is it effective for them as well? Are we all using this communication in the same way with the same expectation? You see, you could send me a text, and to you, text might be immediate. And for me, texting is what I do in my off time. But it's a way to communicate, but it's not effective. So effective communication is much different. Now, we're going to break it into 4 buckets. And these, again, are your key elements for that communication. And we're going to talk about first your immediate needs and quick responses. So sometimes we just need that answer, and you might be used to popping your head in someone's office or walking down the hall or texting quickly for the answer. You still need to be able to do that remotely, but everyone just needs to be on the same page of how you're going to do that. And I personally like to do this over Slack or instant messaging. These should be open channels. So that is real key here. If you're doing these kind of communications via text or WhatsApp, I'm not always a fan of those. One, because those are often not on company property, which creates another layer of non-compliance. You want it to be in open channels within the company to also keep compliant. But in open channels, you have the opportunity to really understand who is asking the question, how often the question gets asked, who's answering it, and how often that question gets answered. Why is that important? Well, if we get the same questions over and over again as a company, we create an FAQ. If your employees and your coworkers that are working in groups together keep on asking the same questions over and over again, that's our cue to understand that we're not delivering our message properly. We're not making things crystal clear. And you can find out those things in open channels. It also gives other team members the opportunity to see the question. And if the response, the answer to that question is not what they believe, now we have another layer of communication to open up to and say, that's not what I would have said. Where did you get that information? Did we change strategy here? Did I miss a memo? It's really important for that to happen, because in these quick response times, we're often going to just say the last thing that we heard, the last thing that we know to be true. And if we missed a message, we missed an email, if something pivoted at the last moment, which happens quite often, it gives the other team members to jump in and help us out. Now, communication outside the company or inside the company that has a longer response time, not quite urgent, but we need to get a message out. This is often done by email. And so many emails are just done wrong. And there's nothing, they're not meant to be novellas. They're meant to be small memos. And everyone has to raise their hand to say, we've all sent out a too long of an email. We've all done multiple messages in an email thread. We've messed up subject lines. But this is a real opportunity for you to work within your company and outside your company on the overuse of really positive language. So when it comes to email, when you're working remotely, the overuse of words, please, thank you, and you're welcome, go a very long way. People can't see you. They don't know the tone of your voice. They need to know that their message is not only being received well, but that people need to know that you're receiving their message well. So it's a really great best practice to start off with, thank you for that information. Thank you for sharing this with me. Please send me the following. Thank you and you're welcome. you can actually use those words in place of titles and communication, like, hope you're doing well. I hope this email finds you well. Happy Wednesday. If you use these other words in there, you're taking those other things out and communicating effectively. But if everyone knows that if it's done over email, it does not have the same response time, then that really helps, because you might have a person on your team and they believe that emails should be responded to within 24 hours. Some might believe emails get responded to in 4 hours. Other people may think that that they never respond to emails, and they're the person who has 20,000 emails on the icon on their phone. So make sure that everyone's on the same page for email, that we're using it properly. We're overusing those communication words that make an effective communication strategy, but also that everyone understands the turnaround time for emails. Now, for collaboration or project management, you might be using some kind of team board already. I like Asana. Asana is my favorite because it's what I would call idiot-proof. I'm not tech savvy, but if I can use Asana, anyone can. Trello is very popular. Teamwork is popular. Basecamp. There are a lot of collaboration and project management tools out there. Now, the use of this is an ongoing project. This is project management, just like you would in the office. It has times, it has multiple deadlines, it has pieces to orchestrate. You can upload files, images, provide due dates, break it up into sections of the project, whether it be promotions, outreach, links, SEO, data, content, copy, whatever that looks like for your company. The key takeaway from these platforms is that someone must be in charge. So often, someone will get the software, they'll plug everything in, everyone has their dates, everyone has their deadlines, so you feel like no one has to be managed here. And that is simply not true. Even within these platforms, there must be someone managing the project. There must be someone orchestrating the project. And it just will not work without it. Maybe someone doesn't check. Maybe they don't get an email alerts. Maybe they just go in once a week and you need to go in more than that. That is why you need a project manager. The tools are there to help you make sure nothing falls through the cracks, but someone has to be in charge. No different. The software is there so everyone can get a bird's eye view, which is very necessary when working remotely, but someone must be in charge. Video and phone chats, however you want to do that, it would be a phone call, conference call, video chat. You will need to make sure that you decide whether or not someone's screen has to be on or off. That is a personal preference. It's a company preference. Really understand what that looks like within your company so everyone can, again, be compliant. If you have 20 people on a call and you have half of those showing their faces and half not, it may seem like someone's distant. It may seem like someone doesn't want to participate, but maybe right now their house is just a mess. People are walking around in the background. They have kids. They're trying to silence the dog. So understand and make those rules now, whether that's going to be necessary. And so no one feels like someone is not participating. They're not being fully present. They're just on, but they're not really paying attention. Know what that looks like for your team. But the key here is to have the opportunity for every single person on your team, every single employee, to have a no-fault call or a no-fault video chat. And what I mean by this is you, again, can send out messages. You can send out emails. You can be working in collaboration. You could go back and forth. But at some point, if someone is not understanding what is happening, what the directive is, what the objective is, what the clear call to action is, every single person should be empowered to say, let's hop on a call. Let's get on a video chat and discuss this because we're missing crucial piece of information here. I'm not understanding you. We're wasting time. The messages are getting a bit heated. Let's take this offline. And we call this unblocking yourself. Allow people to unblock themselves. Allow them to have the permission to get the information they need. Because remember, you may have a message, you may think you're crystal clear, but if it's not received, that message is no good anymore. It's no good anymore. Your message is only as good as the person who's able to receive it on the other end. So if your message isn't receivable, we've got problems. And if you don't allow anyone to call a meeting to ask a question for the person who's sending it, it does really have some bottleneck effects down the road. You'll have miscommunications, you'll have unmet expectations, you'll have missed deadlines. It's really just not good. And I've seen a lot of people not allow this. They want to keep it all online because people just don't like to talk on the phone anymore these days. And that's going to be a problem. So question, how much time and money will poor communication cost you? This is a big one, and you have to really think about it, because it's not always as simple as you think, but there are other bonus tips that I'm going to help you for communicating effectively. So you say, I have all these things in place already. Why is it still not working? Well, asking better questions. We as leaders, we're trained to ask questions. We're trained to be better at it. Your people may not be trained to ask questions. They may be trained to get information and act upon it. When you're working remotely, this does not have the same effect. People need to be able to ask questions, and everyone needs to be a leader in that sense. And you can help train your people to do this. So as you're asking them questions, encourage them to ask you questions. And one of those is, what is the question behind the question? And particularly as leaders right now, working from home, we have a lot more on our plate. We're doing a lot more. We're thinking a lot more. And we know in our head what we want. We're not always able to get that out. So asking and telling your people the questions to ask will go a long way. So don't be afraid to share these with your people, your team, your employees, and ask them to ask you the same thing. What is the question behind the question? What is the expectation? So we often have clear expectations in our minds, but not in our communication. We didn't put it on paper. We didn't put it in the email. We didn't put it in writing somewhere because we think we've said it once, so that's good enough. We know it in our mind. It's crystal clear to us. We believe everyone else should have it. Ask your people to ask you what the expectation is. When is this due? This is a big one. It comes up a lot. And I ask for something and in my mind, I think, oh, this must take 2 hours. That'll be done by the end of the day. But people have competing priorities. And if you need something as a leader, or your team needs to complete something, they need information by a certain date in order to meet their next deadline. If you don't provide a clear expectation of when something is due, you're allowing someone else to decide the priorities for you. You're also assuming that they don't have any other priorities. How will the person decide what is a priority or not if you don't let them know when it's due? How will they communicate competing priorities, competing multiple priorities that all seem to be very important to the people that they're reporting to? What is my clear objective? Empowering your people to ask you what the clear objective is so key. Again, this goes back to some of those messages that we get. There's like 3 messages coming through. We have 20 texts. We have this email that looks like an instruction manual. What is my clear objective? Don't tell them to go back and read the email over again. Don't ask them to go through and read the messages again. Get clear on what that is. Be effective in your communication. Remember, it's our job as leaders to communicate effectively and to provide that clear vision, expectation, deadline, and objective of what the call to action is. And also, allow your people to ask, why am I copied on this? There's a lot of communication that goes around, especially remotely. Everyone wants you to see it. They want to know that you have eyes on it. They want to know that you're seeing that they're doing their job. And this really becomes a trust issue. Allow your people and allow yourself to ask, why am I copied on this? Do I have a clear objective? Am I supposed to be overseeing this project? Otherwise, you're trusting your people and you're giving them permission to do their job on their own. If it's something that you're constantly copying a lot of people, it might be a sign that that needs to go over to a project management tool or a collaboration piece, because multiple people commenting on the same email thread and then bringing more people into a conversation that communication can be diluted quite quickly, and it can be quite confusing. So knowing the perception of the individuals you're working with is really important. A person's perception is their reality. So if you are getting pushback when you're communicating, it's not time to ask questions specifically about what it is that you're trying to get them to do. Now we want to get questions and answers to the insight of their perception. This is what we need to do now, because we're not going to get what we want or what we think we need unless we can understand the person's perception and where they're coming from. So asking, why do you believe that, is a really great way to open up a conversation. You can find a lot in that information. What led you to believe this? Where did you get your data for this? How does this belief impact your assignment? These are really important things that you need to know. You might need to bring someone else on the team to help complete this project. The information that your coworker or employee is sharing with you could lead you to stop or halt and take a pause thoughtfully. And they may be sharing something with you that you really need to know. As leaders, we're saying, we want people to talk to us. We want people to communicate with us. I'm here. I have an open door policy. People can reach me at any time. But what we don't understand is the perception is, what will this person think of me if I bring something to them and I'm wrong? What will happen to me if I think that I have something and then it's not really anything and I wasted this person's time and it's my boss and they're super busy? What is the perception of that? It is not a comfortable situation for people to approach you as a leader. We want to be approachable, but the best way to be approachable is to approach someone first. Start that conversation. Let them know it's okay, because once you do that, then they're more likely to come back to you another time. And again, it's about doing this and teaching people how to communicate and communicate effectively in a strategic way. When you are constantly asking the same types of questions, these will become commonplace in your company, and it will be commonplace for someone to ask you. You probably have language that you use in your company. It's part of your company culture all the time right now. And these types of effective questions and questioning tactics will help your company and create a different type of communication strategy to be part of your culture, which is really key when working remotely. Now, you can do all these things, but if you don't listen as a part of your communication strategy, it doesn't really do you any good. And when you're listening to someone in person, you have a body language that you can show. You can nod your head, you can say yes, you can agree, you can smile. They can see the disagreement on your face if you so choose. However, when you're doing it remotely, you have to acknowledge what the other person is sharing with you. And that is through confirming receipt of an email or message. You can provide feedback. You can request more information. But allowing something to go into the void, and we don't know if it was received, if it went into spam, did they get it? Did I send it to the wrong person? They're not getting back to me. Was it not good? all these questions start coming up, and this leads to poor communication, certainly not effective communication. Listening must be part of the strategy, and listening remotely means that you are acknowledging, and that means acknowledging every single piece of information you get. Now, you might have a system in your instant messaging where people can just emoji in, they can do a check mark, they have like the eye emojis so we can see I've seen it. You might have read receipts on in instant messaging. You want that acknowledgement. And it needs to be okay within your company to also have quick acknowledgement forms. So I'm a huge fan of just having emails sent and received that say done, received, will do. Really quick communication doesn't require a lot, but it lets the other person know it's out of their hands now. I've acknowledged it. I've listened to them. I've heard them. This is how people know you're hearing them as part of your communication strategy. So if you want more information, this is my website. You can view it. There's a form. You can reach out to me. I'm here to help you. You can do this. You can save your company a lot of time and money. And most importantly, you can have your vision not only shared, but received. And you will be able to go a long way, even remotely.